Okay, good morning and welcome to the online open day for the Applied Animal Sciences degree at Barony campus. I'm going to talk you through what we do here in terms of opportunities for you on the degree. So my name is Dr. Anne Carter. I am the programme lead for the Applied Animal Sciences degree. And I will give you a bit of an overview of the course, a bit of a background to the teaching team, and then if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask those as well. So as you can see from hopefully the first slide on the screen, the applied animal science is an opportunity to study a whole range of different species. It's not just limited to livestock, although obviously SRUC is well known for its livestock contribution. You can look at a whole range of different species across your studies. So I'm going to talk you through the structure of the degree itself and what you'll learn, your modules that you'll cover in third and fourth year, because this is a top-up degree. You're going to have a look at careers and resources and support available to you. So in terms of the structure of the degree itself, as I said, it's a third and fourth year degree here at Barony. So that means you'll come on from an HND programme or something similar to that. So we offer the animal care and the biosciences, which are a fantastic lead into the applied animal science degree. But if you study another programme or at another campus of a similar subject, please feel free to get in touch if you're not sure whether you think that would be a suitable starting point for your degree, or obviously if you've done A-levels or higher. Again, please get in touch with us. It is a full-time degree, although we have the advantage that the degree is taught both in person and online. So we have that hybrid opportunity. That means we can pull in a lot of lecturers and teaching from people who are perhaps a little bit further afield, can't come onto campus. So you really get the best of both worlds with that. And it also means that you can often work things like part-time jobs, volunteering opportunities around your studies as well. So we like to get you out in the field. That can be both practical opportunities, lab-based sessions, and also visits that we do, which I'll come on to in a second. In terms of what you learn, so the advantage of the applied animal sciences over other degree programmes is it gives you a broad science degree. So you're not going to be specialising in a particular area, but it opens up lots of opportunities in lots of different areas. Applied animal science is really about looking at how everything interacts in terms of the systems of the animal alongside the production. Now that might be in terms of things like meat and milk, but also in terms of productive performance. So if we think about how our animals move and function, things like gait analysis, coping with the changing environments, how our animals interact with the environment. That might be our companion animals, so our pets, might be our livestock, and how our wildlife is then interacting with those animals, some of the conflicts that we have to deal with, the challenges we come across, and then how all of this interacts in terms of health, welfare, and behaviour of the animal. The opportunities then become so broad in terms of what you can go into. So it's a really good degree if you're not really sure where you want to go, or if you don't want to be sort of pigeonholed into a certain area. So if you've got a real interest in nutrition, for example, or behaviour, or understanding welfare, or perhaps looking at a broad range of species, then this really allows you to look at all those different areas. In terms of the teaching team, you have the advantage of the core teaching team has a very broad knowledge, very broad skill set that you could draw on, both in terms of your teaching and in terms of things like your honours projects as well. So my background, I am a behaviour and welfare scientist predominantly. I did my PhD in canine behaviour and welfare, but I now do a lot of research on gait analysis, on temperature monitoring, and looking at hypothermia, so the risk of getting things like heat stroke in animals. I've also got Nicola, who has a background in RSPCA and has worked at the vet labs in Dumfries. And so she has a brilliant skill set looking at more of the physiology side, laboratory techniques, and also that animal welfare perspective. Mia Aitchison, she has a PhD in broiler energy efficiency. So she's been looking a lot at chickens, and she is our kind of resident nutritionist. She has fantastic knowledge in animal nutrition and production animals. And she has a lot of background in statistics as well. And then Yolanda brings a chemistry perspective to things, which really draws in on things like climate change and carbon dioxide, which is very topical at the moment, of not just about how our animals interact with our environment, but how we need to change how they interact with the environment and how we interact with our animals too. Okay, so in terms of the modules you'll cover, you can see I've highlighted some of the key themes that run through the course. So not going to read these out as a list to you, but you can see that welfare is an important aspect that runs through the 2 years. Nutrition, again, is really vital in there. Your research methods is going to be really, really valuable for putting together your honours project. And then I said we look at some of the interactions with wildlife, with the environment, some of the current topical issues, things like climate change and global issues, really thinking about what are the challenges that we face, what are the current research problems that we have to deal with, and how can we manage those whilst driving forward productivity, companion animals in a sustainable way, and that interaction with the environment itself. So it really does give you a solid cross-section of those really core science subjects with a good animal slant on those different areas. This just gives you an idea of some of the honours projects that students have done recently. Again, we've got the advantage that you've got the community and the campus at Barony, but we have the expertise across SRUC to be able to draw on to support you. So we have students who've been looking at things like genetic traits in alpaca wool. We've got students looking at owner perception of obesity in horses, effects of cost of living crisis on pet ownership. So there's a real wide range of different areas that students have focused on, and that gives you the opportunity to think, what am I really interested in? I've got a real drive for genetics, or I'm really interested in dogs. And being able to use the expertise we've got at SRUC to be able to build a project around those areas you're really interested in. And in terms of how you'll learn, so it is a science-based degree, and that's really valuable because it means whatever you go into when you finish the degree, you have a core science degree, which is so valuable to employers. And even if you make the decision to go into something that's not directly related to your degree, a science degree is held in very high regard. So it's a really useful foundation to have going forwards. We do lots of visits, so I've just given you some examples of some of the visits we do. This really helps us to tie in the theory that you're learning in the classroom to how it's used in industry. So using things like the post-mortem rooms and vet labs in Dumfries to look at some of the animal physiology and disease basis. Going out on some of the farm visits, and we also obviously have the farms at Barony where we've got the dairy, and at Crichton there's a lot of research going on there. Feed mills, really good for understanding our animal nutrition and processing our animal feeds. And going to some of the labs in Edinburgh, but also using the facilities we've got on campus. So we've got labs that you can do practical lab-based work in, and we've got, as I mentioned, the dairy on campus, we've got sheep, and we've got an animal unit as well. So lots of facilities we can use around the campus as well. There's also opportunities if you fancy taking a gap year, just some examples, places like Operation Wallachia and Gap Africa, to put some of your theory into practice in other countries as well, and see how things differ out in the field where perhaps resources are more limited. So where can you go at the end of all of this? Well, in a sense, you can do whatever you want with it, which sounds like a real cop-out and a really broad perspective. But there are so many opportunities off the back of this, because you can take that knowledge in nutrition, in welfare, in behaviour. It really means that you can go off in one direction and your classmates might go off in a completely different direction, to where it leads to, if you like. It really does base around a lot of the careers aligned to veterinary science and agriculture. So, for example, the nutritionist coming in to advise on improving meat quality, improving productive performance, improving milk production. A nutritionist within the small animal industry, so looking at cats and dog nutrition, can we improve what we're feeding our companion animals? Welfare science, working careers associated with some of the welfare organisations, RSPCA, SSPCA, all that sort of thing. It's really not restricted to a particular discipline or particular area. You can see the picture up the top there is looking at biomechanics in dogs, trying to understand mobility and lameness and what the challenges are associated with improving the health and welfare of our companion animals. So again, these are careers that work alongside the veterinary profession as well. Lab opportunities, working in diagnostics, in the lab environment. So many areas you can go into. And this just gives you a small example of some of the careers and opportunities that our previous students have gone into. So working in field trials, so research areas, laboratory scientists, nutritionists, going on to further study, that might be master's, PhD level, or into a second degree, something like veterinary sciences, teaching, secondary education, physiotherapy, SSPCA, RSPCA, Scottish Government. It is really an endless list of opportunities out there for you, but that core science degree really does open a lot of doors whilst retaining that interest that you've got in your animal studies side of things. So why Barony? Barony is a fantastic campus. You get the small campus feel to it with a lot of the facilities there and the wider support of SRUC across the different campuses. So we've got classrooms and lab facilities and practical facilities. At Barony, we've also got the Crichton Farm just down the road as well. We've got the animal care unit, wildlife hospital, stables, and lots of outdoor classroom space on campus as well. You've got a really supportive teaching team here at Barony, but as I mentioned earlier, we have the advantage of being able to utilise researchers and consultants across SRUC. So that means that some of your sessions might be co-taught with students at Edinburgh, or we might bring in visiting lecturers, guest lecturers, who can give you that knowledge and expertise in their specialist field and their specialist subject. So we can really draw on those different expertise beyond your core teaching team as well. And we've got lots and lots of external contacts that we can utilise. And you've also got a fantastic student hub and student population, again, through Barony, but also through the wider SRUC. And the other advantage we've got at Barony is we've got nice small class sizes. You're not in a lecture theatre of a couple of hundred people. That means you can get to know your teaching team. You'll have a dedicated year tutor who will be your first point of contact if you have any problems or challenges, but also to support you through your studies. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of hybrid teaching, so that means some of your lectures will be on campus, some of them will be online. So that gives you a really nice mix to be able to manage your studies. In terms of what we've got on campus, we have a fantastic student support network on campus. We've got library facilities, career support, wonderful rural campus, and as I mentioned, the wider SRUC team as well. And this is where we'll hopefully all end up 2 years down the line. So graduation is always a really exciting and wonderful day to celebrate getting your degree. And this is up at Glasgow, and it's a great day out for yourselves, your friends, your family to celebrate with all your teaching team there too. Okay, so that just gives you a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of the campus and of SRUC. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask those.
Hi Anne, there's a couple of questions came through.
Yeah.
First one is, what are the class sizes like?
So there's a little bit of variation in class sizes. We tend to have round about probably about 10 students in the smaller groups, and if you're doing optional modules, some of the sessions, if we have shared sessions with Edinburgh, then you might have around 40 in the group for an online session, but then we will do separate seminar sessions with you as well. And we have some sessions where you might be co-taught if there are students who are at other courses at SRUC. So we might have sort of half a dozen students from those courses joining us, which actually gives us a really nice mix of different expertise, different experiences coming together for some of those discussions.
Thanks for that. Next question would be, what animals will we have access to?
A whole range of different animals and opportunities. So on campus, we've got dairy cows, we've got sheep, we've got the animal unit, which has ferrets, rabbits, guinea pigs, lots of small animals, birds to work with, and we have dogs that we can use for practical sessions as well. We then will take you out to other places for opportunities to see other species, other setups. So there's a whole range of field trips. These vary year on year as to where we go to, but it might be to other farm facilities, so things like pig units, poultry, so things that we may not have access to on campus. We also have a really good relationship with Five Sisters Zoo, so there might be opportunity, particularly if you're interested in a career pathway aligned to the zoo, might be somewhere where you want to go to do your data collection for your honours project, for example.
Thanks for that. The next one is, do we get to go on field trips anywhere?
Yes, lots of field trips. Again, advantage of the smaller class sizes means that we can get you all in a minibus and take you places. So again, what we want to do with the field trips is make sure that we're going to places that ties in with what we're teaching you. So we want to make sure that we can teach you the theory in the classroom and then take you somewhere that is going to be looking at how that knowledge works in practice. So there's some of the lists of examples of field trips on the PowerPoint, but things like the vet labs in Dumfries, up to Crichton, where I said we've got a lot of the dairy research going on there. Red Kite Centre to see some of the challenges of the sort of animal wildlife conflict and interactions. SSPCA, feed mills, nutrition analysis. So yeah, lots and lots of field trip opportunities.
I would just like to add into that, a whole bunch of students are going to Gap Africa for a couple of weeks at the end of April. Big opportunity for students to do that too. The next question, not so much a question, from Helen. Please, can you send us the PowerPoint? This is actually going to be recorded, so I will send you an email with the link to the recording via YouTube, so you'll be able to watch this back and be able to have a look through the PowerPoint again. Hopefully that's all right for you. There's another question about, is there much around Barony for when you are not studying, or is it quite out of the way?
You are a little bit out of the way, but not far from Dumfries itself. Caroline, you might be able to help me out on this one, but I'm fairly new to the area, so I'm just finding my feet. But certainly Dumfries is 10 minutes away by car. Yeah.
So the good thing about the Barony campus is it is a sort of rural location, so we're lucky in that we have what we have. You know, we've got the dairy, we've got the animal care facilities and the sheep, and we wouldn't be able to have that if it wasn't sort of slightly out of the way. but there is a really quick bus route just outside on the main road that will take you into Dumfries. And also, it, like Anne says, it's only 10 minutes away from the town centre, so not too far away from doing things if you were staying on campus, for example. So hopefully that answers your question there. Best thing to do though is if you're unsure, come along to an on-campus open day, so you can see the facilities a bit better for yourself, and you can also come along and just, if there's not an open day, you can just come along and have a visit as well, and maybe have a little walk around the site and see how you feel about it.
You've got a nice balance there. So
yeah.
the advantage of the campus is we have got that rural location, and it does give us a lot more facilities than other places have because of that, and by not being in a city centre. But you have still got the facilities in Dumfries and the opportunity to go out during the day, at night. You're not restricted, but yeah, sort of 10 minutes up the road, so not too far at all.
Sure. The next question would be another one from Helen. Do you get to choose which animals you learn about? For example, horses instead of ostriches. I like that. I like that.
What we want to do is give you the broad overview of topics. So we might choose examples that we're using for specific information, and particularly where if a lot of the research is based around particular species. So it might be that, for example, nutrition, there might be a little bit more of a focus on cattle, because there's been lots of research done on cattle nutrition, and we can use that as a model species in understanding some of the nutrition. But there is still scope within that to be tailoring sort of some of your assignment work, certainly your project, your dissertation project, and thinking about how all of these aspects fit together. So yes, there is some scope to be tailoring. I wouldn't say tailoring so much what you learn, but certainly your additional reading, your project work, and the areas you want to focus on. Ostriches, to be fair, might be a little bit more of a struggle anyway, but certainly if you've got a keen interest in exotics or horses or companion animals or livestock, there's real scope to cater for those different areas and aspects.
The next question might have been answered from your previous answer there, but it's a question about, do we get the chance to study any exotic animals?
Yeah, again, the modules are quite broad in what we cover and the focus. You will find some, as I said, a little bit more livestock focused, but there will be a range of species used. And I said, particularly if you're really keen on the exotics, then certainly, as I said, your honours project is a really good opportunity there. Your human wildlife conflict modules will look certainly at wild species, and there will be discussion, and particularly where we're thinking about climate change and we're thinking about the human wildlife interaction side of things, then some of that will consider some of the challenges of the exotics. So it's not an exotics focus, but there will be an opportunity to talk about exotics within there. And certainly we've had students who've been very interested in zoo-based careers and that side of things, who've really enjoyed that course and the overview. But I said a lot of the information you will gain from some of those modules of things like nutrition, welfare, then they are all topic areas that the exotic side is key within those two.
And there's a final question here. If you've got any other questions, folks, just fire them in now before we have to finish up. But this looks like the last one. Is there any full-time accommodation on campus? Are you okay with that question, Anne? Because you're quite new to the campus.
I'm not sure about the accommodation, I'm afraid.
Well, we do have full-time accommodation. We've got 2 different blocks. We don't have masses of accommodation, but there is accommodation, and it's given priority to 16, 17-year-olds as a priority. You don't have to stay in the accommodation full time. It can be as and when needed. For example, I know that a lot of the kind of blended learning where you're perhaps on campus a couple of days a week and at home for a couple of days a week, you might not necessarily need to be there for a full week. So, 2 days accommodation would be suitable. So I know that there's a bit of flex with the accommodation. However, if you do have specific accommodation questions, I can put you in touch with Peril, who's our accommodation manager, should be able to give you a bit more detail about that. I think, one more question. Is it required to have experience with livestock?
No, absolutely not. So long as you're up for some handling, some observations of livestock and working with them, then your level of experience doesn't matter at all. We'll teach you sort of how to handle them, work around them, making sure you're safe and looked after. And sort of there are opportunities that if you want to do more and get involved, it's good to get some experience, but no, it's not a prerequisite for the course.
Thanks for that, Anne. There's another question at the bottom relating to accommodation. My knowledge is limited on accommodation, unfortunately. But what I'll do is I'll put my email address just in the comment section under your question there. And just send me an email and I will put you in touch with the accommodation manager and they'll be able to give you more details, if that's okay. I think that's us for now. I'm just putting in my email address. So it's carol.ann.mccaffrey@sruc.ac.uk if anybody else wants that too. Okie dokie. I think that's us. So we'll end the live session now. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.